is this increasing reliance on the internet that made the UK government think about being a lot more coordinated and giving it a much better response to the security that we have online. And 6 years ago, the NCSC, which is the government department I work for, the National Cyber Security Centre, was formed. The NCSC is a part of GCHQ, which is one of the UK intelligence agencies, as well as holding some of like the best minds in cybersecurity. And I'll just hold my hand up and say I am not one of them. They also work really hard to help to understand what the problems are and think about where the trends are going, so we can anticipate what we're going to need as well. But also we make sure that the individuals and organisations in the UK are fully equipped to make sure that they're safer online. So we have developed guidance. We've got free tools. Have a good look around in the NCSC website and you'll find some great guidance and tools that are free for your charity. But something that I think is a really important part of that toolkit that the NCSC offers to organisations is an assurance scheme. So this is Cyber Essentials, which Neil will be talking about soon. It's an assurance scheme that gives you really clear guidance on what you can do to make sure that your charity is safer online. And when you are securing and giving that assurance to your charity, you're also giving the assurance to the beneficiaries, the people that use your services, that their data is going to be safe and the services that they use are going to be still running as much as possible. We can't 100% guarantee that you won't experience a cyber attack, but it does mean that you're much less likely to. It also assures the volunteers and the staff that work with you as well. And it assures the donors that are donating towards you. And it also is helping to protect the other organisations that you work with. So if you experience a cyber attack, so for example, a criminal has managed to get onto your email system and send out spam emails, then there's this spider's web of interconnections that you have with other organisations. So you're protecting yourself and you're protecting others. I'm particularly really passionate about Cyber Essentials and getting it out, reaching out to charities as much as possible, because the more difficult a target that the charity sector is, the less likely that any criminal is going to want to try and attack a charity. There's always going to be this opportunistic attacks, but it's just helping us all to be a lot safer online. Cyber Essentials is the assurance scheme that the NCSC has developed, and we work very closely with our partners, IASME, who run the whole system. So I'd like to introduce you to Neil, who will be able to explain a little bit more about Cyber Essentials and possibly go through some of what we call the controls, so the different measures that you can do to make yourself safer, and hopefully you'll come back with some really great ideas as to how you can help your charity be a little bit safer online. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name's Neil Firminger. I'm the Cyber Essentials Manager at IASME, and we are the delivery partner of Cyber Essentials and work very, very closely with the NCSC to deliver the scheme and train all the assessors and run the scheme in general completely. We work very closely with the development of the scheme with the NCSC, and I am a part of that, so I understand the scheme inside out, and I help develop the 5 controls of the scheme. What I want to talk to you about first, though, is a little bit what Becca's talked about, is what are the risks are we trying to mitigate against with the controls of Cyber Essentials. So, as we live in an ever-connected world, technology is absolutely everywhere. We use it in our daily lives. you know, say as Becca says, if you lose your phone for an hour, you soon know about it when you're trying to connect to the internet, trying to do your banking, etc., etc. But the whole world is connected. We're seeing an increasing number of devices, etc. Some very bizarre things out there now connected to the internet, such as toasters and mattresses and all kinds of stuff. But that all presents a risk because it's connected to the World Wide Web, the internet, and we need to mitigate against those risks. Now, where do those risks come from? So there are many stories about intrepid hackers targeting individuals and businesses waiting to pounce. In reality, most are subject to the opportunist attack. So these are using simple tools which are readily available on the internet. And these the tools are used to identify weaknesses in your systems, and removing these weaknesses can make the job a lot harder for these attackers. So I want you to just think about, I'm just going to play a short video here to think about this. It comes from a video that is 50 years old, and I just want you to think about it in the way it would be in the cyber world.
That was a game and a half, wasn't it, Fred?
Yeah, but we should have had it sewn up by half time. What we need is a bit more skill up front.
Hey, how you getting home? Bus?
No, I've got the new car with me.
New, eh? You must be doing all right.
Well, it's in fantastic nick though. Only 10,000 on the clock. Goes like a bomb.
Yeah?
I'll tell you what, I'll give you a lift home.
Thanks.
We can hear the football results on the radio. Only just around the corner. You can't miss it, it's wide. That's funny. I could have sworn I left it here.
Remember, lock your car, check the doors, the windows, the boot, and please, take the keys with you. Watch out, there's a thief about.
So that short video, yes, it's from a long time ago, but cyber attacks and the ones we're trying to prevent in Cyber Essentials are virtually the same thing. But what happens is they're opportunists. They are trying that door handle, but rather than they're trying the door handle of your computer systems, but they're not doing it 3 or 4 times in a minute. They're doing it thousands of times a minute. But what to get through is these aren't targeted attacks by these big cyber hacking groups that we're trying to prevent. We're trying to prevent what are called commodity internet attacks. And these commodity internet attacks are normally run by people like young kids in bedrooms. There are a number of very publicized attacks that was carried out by young lads in their bedrooms who were bored or whatever. The talk attack from a number of years ago was carried out initially by a 16-year-old lad from his bedroom with readily available tools. And most of the big targeted attacks now start with what's called a commodity attack, a very untargeted attack, because if they can get in easy with the freely available tools, then they're not going to do a more sophisticated attack. So which specific ones are we trying to work with on the commodity threats here in Cyber Essentials? So we're trying to deal with the social engineering. These are the phishing attacks that come through your email normally, or they could be, people trying to get information about you and then use that information against you or your organization or charity. Then we have exploiting known vulnerabilities. These are the systems that are unpatched, that have security patches, or they haven't been updated for a while. They're using those vulnerabilities that the patches are supposed to be repairing. They're exploiting them to gain access to your systems. And then the final one really is password guessing. We talk a lot about passwords. Passwords were supposed to have disappeared by now. I remember Bill Gates talking about it about 10 years ago that they would disappear. Passwords, they were still very, very important to accessing systems. So some of the measures in Cyber Essentials are there to also help prevent that as well. So what are the risks to you as an organization? Theft of data, encryption of data. They are really important. when you're dealing with a ransomware attack, losing your data and encrypting of that data, you often have to pay money to get it back. Don't pay the money to get it back. Talk to the NCSC if you have a cyber attack. They have experts who can help. There are other organisations that can. If you have a cyber attack, talk to Action Fraud. Don't pay the money. But the last thing you want to do is have your data encrypted through such an attack. The disruption it can cause to your organisation. I was at another conference only yesterday talking about this. The average, it disrupts your organisation for 2 to 3 weeks initially, but there are stories of organisations who've had ransomware attacks who still 2 years after the initial attack are still repairing the damage even now. So we're trying to get through is also that only a small percentage of cyber attacks are targeted. These are the ones where specifically looking at a specific organisation and say, we need to get in there, we need to get into them, need to carry out an attack. What we're trying to avoid with a Cyber Essentials is that you, your charities, your businesses, your organisations need to protect against the opportunist. These are the most common of attacks. It's roughly about 95% of attacks start initially as an opportunist attack, and it can happen against any device that is connected to the internet. And I've got some stats here coming up about cyber attacks over the last 12 months or so. It's taken from the DCMS Security Breaches Service survey of 2022, and these are the figures against charities. So 30% of charities have reported a cyber breach in the last 12 months. That's a big figure, 30%. It's probably, bear in mind, they're the ones who've reported. A lot of people won't report, so that figure, probably the charities that have been breached, had a cyber attack, is higher than that. From that survey, it was also expected and came out that most charities that have a breach can see evidence of attacks at least once a week. That's 20%, 26%. That's probably a higher because people don't report it again. Then we have, but a good thing here is to see that charities are taking cybersecurity seriously and see it's a high priority. 72% in that survey say it's a high priority. That's really important. The message is getting out there, and that's what's, you know, that's where Cyber Essentials comes in and can be the baseline of your start to a good cybersecurity practice. So as I say, Cyber Essentials is a scheme that was developed by the National Cybersecurity Centre back in 2014, and IASME has been involved with the scheme from day one. We were one of the original accreditation bodies before we became the sole partner to deliver. So we have a lot of experience in Cyber Essentials on how it's delivered, and we work very closely in partnership with the NCSC to provide Cyber Essentials. So Cyber Essentials is designed to control and to prevent 80% of cyber incidents taking place. That's backed up with some research that was carried out back in 2016. We're just about to embark on that research again to see if there's been an improvement, because there's been updates to the scheme since. But it's really important. That's a really high figure of what it's preventing there by just implementing some simple measures. The controls are developed by threat intelligence and a risk assessment that's been carried out by the NCSC. So the controls are actually the mitigations or technical controls that can be used to prevent a cyber incident taking place. As I say, the scheme was launched in 2014 and we've been the sole partner since 2020. And the biggest update to the scheme was released back in January this year, which reflect the changes in working practices, but also the changes in the type of attack that's taking place and against certain systems. So the major change in January was we added cloud services to the scheme. And as I say, Cyber Essentials should be seen as the baseline standard or the minimum baseline for all your organisations to set their cybersecurity levels. So what is included in Cyber Essentials? So we have the 5 controls. So we have firewalls, we have secure configuration, we have security update management, which is your patching, user access control, this is about your user accounts and administrator accounts, and finally malware protection. So I'm now going to talk about these all in a little bit more depth, but not a great deal, but to give you an overview. So the first one is firewalls and routers. It's important to have a firewall at your boundary to the internet. Now, this can be a physical firewall or a software firewall built into the operating system of your laptops and desktops and servers. And we need to see that there is a firewall in place as part of the control. What we also want to see is that all inbound ports to those firewalls are blocked unless there is a documented business need. Hackers or cyber criminals are using those open ports to infiltrate your systems, and they can widely see those from across the internet. So it's important that you understand what inbound ports you have open. And all controls that are listed under this control, and there's some more about changing the default password on your devices and just documenting what you need to do, and also understand what happens when perhaps you feel the password's been compromised or access to the device has been compromised. They need to be controlled. All those controls need to be applied on your physical firewall. So these are a box that may be connected to your internet router, etc. Or it could be something that's in a cloud service, etc. Or the software firewalls on your devices. So there's a lot of things to consider here, but blocking those initial possible inbound connections is really important. The second control is secure configuration, and this is about reducing your attack surface. So by that, what I mean is, if you've got unsupported software or unrequired software on your laptops, desktops, you'd never use, remove it. If you're not using it and it's got there's no chance of being attacked through vulnerabilities. If it's sat on your system and you're not using it, but it becomes a vulnerable piece of software, that can be used also to attack your organization. It's also important to remove or disable all unused accounts. Highly recommended to really remove them if they're never used, but disable them at least. It's another access device that can't be used by the attacker. And then it's also important to make sure they don't get access into the device in the first place if this is a physical aspect, and this is important in smartphones and tablets. So we require a access pin or password to set to unlock the device initially. The third control is security updates management, or patching, as it was previously known as. Now, this is to make sure there are no vulnerabilities in your software estate. This is your operating systems, the applications you use, etc., that allow a point of access for criminals on your machine or machines. You need to check that the software is still supported by the vendor, because as soon as it goes end of life, unsupported or known as legacy, often there is no security updates produced again. So the holes, when it goes end of life, still remain in that software, and very unlikely they'll ever get patched. It's in very rare circumstances where it may happen. It's been known once or twice, perhaps by Apple or perhaps by Microsoft, to plug those, but it's very, very rare. So really, you should not be using unsupported software at all. But the important thing here is when security updates are available, and these are the high and critical updates that are ranked by certain organizations, maybe by the vendor of the software, or what's called the CVS 3 scoring. They must be applied within 14 days to meet the requirements of the scheme. This evidence of the 14 days is based on a study that was done when Cyber Essentials was initially set up, and it was about how quick it would take a vulnerability to be exploited in the real world. So that figure apparently was 15 days. It was decided to cut a day off to make it 14 days. There's evidence to state now that maybe that figure is lower, but it's been decided to stick at the 14 days. But it is really important that you make sure that you are updating where you're in control within 14 days. Ideally, the best way to do this is if you've got the ability to turn automatic updates on your devices, your systems, and the software, apply automatic updates. We are seeing the frequency of automatic updates speeding up, and we're also the time to apply them speeding up as well. So that's really important. The fourth control is about your user controls, your user accounts. So that's access control here. So to do your day-to-day work, create emails, read emails, do Excel documents, Word documents, etc., create those documents, we need to use accounts that have least privilege. So these are standard user accounts, and being least privileged, they don't have any administrative privileges. You won't be able to install software with them, etc., or create new user accounts on the device, etc. You would be asked for a second account to do that. But when using an administrator account, you shouldn't be using it all day to do your day-to-day activities, but it also needs to be limited on what access you do with it. So you shouldn't be looking at emails, and you shouldn't be downloading stuff from the internet or doing general web browsing, because if you get exploited while logged into it, that's exactly what the attacker is looking for. They're looking for admin privileges to run software that potentially could corrupt your data or encrypt your data, etc. But a key one here is we also want to see MFA, multi-factor authentication, applied to all your cloud services. Your cloud services, you are accessing them across the internet, and to back up and give you a second level of access to, because we talk about layers in cybersecurity, the second layer to access your cloud services should be by a form of multi-factor. So this could be a PIN code from an authentication app. You're looking at you're typing in and logging in from your laptop, but you're asked to say, is that you logging in on your mobile phone from a second device? So there's many forms of multi-factor, but it's really good measure to protect your cloud services. And with most organizations now using cloud services, that is protecting the most important asset to your company is your data. When you're talking about cybersecurity, that's what we're trying to protect, is against data loss. Okay, and then finally, the last one is malware protection. This is to have a good piece of anti-malware software installed on your laptops and desktops. And where it's not a laptop or desktop, we're talking about you understand which applications you have on your devices, on your smartphones and tablets, and which ones can access your organizational data. I just want to talk about scope here, really, and I really want to bring attention to one bit in the bottom left-hand corner of this. We get lots of questions about this. ISP provided home routers, when you're talking about remote workers and home workers, they are not in scope, but every other kind of router that's in your organization, in your office locations, and ones you may supply to your home workers, they are in scope. But as you can see from this diagram, which is actually in the requirements document, this is all your physical computers and access devices are in scope for when they're especially connecting to cloud services through the internet. So anything that connects to the internet is in scope. But remember, the home router provided by an internet provider is not in scope. We don't ask for that information when we do the Cyber Essentials assessment. So what is Cyber Essentials? It is a certification. It's government backed, and it is built on the 5 controls that I've just spoken about. So why Cyber Essentials? Okay, it's resilience against online threats from the internet. It can help present business opportunities. It can help you gain funding. It shows that you take cybersecurity seriously, and it also provides evidence to your supply chains that you're doing things and have cybersecurity as part of your organization, and you understand it in some form, and it shows you've got some cyber resilience in place. I talk a lot about access to data and encryption data. It is also an important part of the GDPR and protection of personal information, and I'll come on to that very shortly in another slide. There are 2 levels to Cyber Essentials. So there is a verified self-assessment. That's where you fill out a questionnaire and a board member signs a declaration. An assessor will then mark your answer and provide feedback. And you'll go through that process, and then you'll be awarded a Cyber Essentials certificate if you pass. The second version is called CE+. And this is an audited version. This is where an assessor comes and runs 7 tests on a sample of your devices and verifies that you have the policies and practices and the technical measures in place that are required by those 7 tests. It says on here can visit your location, but the other thing it can do, they can also remotely carry out this, and they've become very skilled in doing remote assessments for Cyber Essentials Plus during the pandemic. With your cybersecurity or your Cyber Essentials certification, if you have a turnover less than £20 million in your charity, you will get a level of cyber insurance, and this is if you certify the whole charity or organisation and you're based in the UK or one of the Crown dependencies. This cyber insurance is underwritten by AXA, and it gives you up to £25,000 of funding to help with the legal and recovery of a potential cyber incident. As I said, and I mentioned, this is one of the benefits. It's regarding the showing to your supply chain how important having Cyber Essentials. We're seeing it in supply chains all the time. I know Becca mentioned it earlier. We see this all the time. We're seeing it being adopted in supply chains, and it shows, it helps to keep business continuity within that. We're seeing lots of encouragement here and lots of take up. You will also give you an understanding of how secure your supply chain is as well. People providing services to yourself, and not only those who you get funding from, etc. Very, very important, and you'll hear a lot to talk about this. I also just want to mention again about the General Data Protection Regulations, or GDPR. It's under Article 5 here that it talks about ensuring appropriate security of the personal data, and it clearly wants to bring out appropriate technical and organisational measures. We're now seeing that the ICO are looking at organisations when they have a data breach, whether they have Cyber Essentials in place. And it shows that they have tried to put some preventative measures to stop the data breach taking place. there has been a couple of high-profile cases that have been publicised by the ISO where they've actually stated that and organisations have been fined because they don't have cyber essentials. In one case particularly, they said they didn't adopt 4 of the 5 controls and were fined on that basis accordingly. So it's very good and important when you're dealing with your data protection to have cyber essentials in place. I want to talk about now very, very quickly, because time is pressing. I want to talk about the Cyber Essentials Readiness Tool. This is a tool that helps you prepare for Cyber Essentials certification and going through the assessment and filling out the questionnaire. It's been developed by IASME on behalf of the NCSE. And it's an interactive tool that helps you assess the state of your cybersecurity. And it's also an education process. If you don't have a lot of knowledge about cybersecurity, there's a lot of interactive questions, etc., that then provides and leads on to further guidance, etc. And we're always expanding on this tool to try and give you some really good information about what you can do to improve the state of your cybersecurity. So it is designed to support you and educate and get you to a position where you can feel comfortable that you can apply for Cyber Essentials. So it helps you identify the gaps and areas that need improvements in your organisations and charities. And really important, this one, we give this out for free. You can go and, as you can see on the link there that is available, you can go and look at the Cyber Essentials Readiness Tool after this event and give it a go and see where your organisation is. And then it will prepare you in readiness to start the assessment process. So, in summary, Cyber Essentials is considered the baseline. It should not be foundation. I think it's the foundational baseline of your cybersecurity. It is effective. There is some research to say how effective it is out there, and I say that study that says it helps to prevent 80% of cyber attacks. We're seeing the use of the certification through supply chains and to gain funding and get tenders. We see it nearly, and some tenders to get. We're seeing it as almost the first question. We're also seeing insurance firms now requiring it, and in fact some insurance firms are now saying if you don't have Cyber Essentials you can't get the insurance with them. But to start your journey is with the CE Readiness Tool. But one thing I haven't done on here, and I haven't got a slide for, I do want to mention is what's really good about doing this presentation today. We're in the middle of our Cyber Essentials week, and there's a small discount available at the moment for charities if you sign up for Cyber Essentials by this Friday, and the links are available on our website, and if you follow us on social media, there's been plenty of publicity about our charity week, and yes, there's a discount at the time being. There's also I think 90 of our 300 CVs are involved in this campaign as well. They're doing a lot of social media out there, so please follow us on IASME, and you'll see this on our Twitter feed, our LinkedIn feed, and our Facebook page. You will see lots about the charity week, and there's a link on there that can link you to where you can apply, and if you apply by the end of this week you'll get a discount. Okay, well, thank you very much. And that's the end of my presentation.